Welcome to our channel. Today, we are peeling back the layers of a very specific, often misunderstood workplace archetype. We have all met them. The coworker who is impeccably polite, unfailingly helpful, and radiates a constant gentle warmth. They remember your birthday, they bring in donuts, and they never engage in gossip. Yet, if you look closer, you realize you know absolutely nothing about them. There is an invisible wall made of glass behind that smile. Today, alongside clinical psychologist Elena, we are exploring why extreme niceness is often a sophisticated defense mechanism, a survival strategy rooted in deep psychological necessity rather than simple extroversion. It is a fascinating, complex dynamic.
Thank you, Jane. It is a pleasure to be here. You have described the dynamic perfectly. In clinical terms, we often look past the surface behavior to find the function it serves for the individual. When we see someone who is relentlessly agreeable, we are not necessarily looking at friendliness in the way we traditionally define it. We might be witnessing what trauma psychology calls the fawn response. Unlike fight or flight, fawning is a mechanism where an individual seeks safety by merging with the needs and expectations of others to avoid conflict. In an office environment, this manifests as extreme pleasantness, a shield constructed of compliments and compliance that keeps potential threats and genuine intimacy at a very safe distance.
That is such a crucial distinction, Elena. I think many of us misinterpret this behavior as the beginning of a friendship. We think, oh, they are so nice, we are bonding. But then months go by and you realize the conversation never goes deeper than the weekend weather or work projects. It's a paradox. They're the most socially present people in the room, yet they are effectively invisible. It makes me wonder about the energy cost. Maintaining that level of polish, that seamless exterior where nothing ever bothers you, must be incredibly draining. Is this what we call emotional labor, or is it something even deeper and more systemic?
It is emotional labor, Jane, but amplified by hypervigilance. Imagine walking into a room and feeling that your physical safety depends on your ability to predict the emotional state of everyone present. For the nice but guarded individual, the office isn't just a place to work. It is a minefield of potential interpersonal conflict. Their niceness is a preemptive strike. By keeping everyone happy, they neutralize threats before they arise. They are constantly scanning for micro-expressions, shifts in tone, or signs of disapproval. This requires a massive amount of cognitive processing power. While they appear relaxed and smiling, their nervous system is often running in a high alert state, ensuring the mask never slips.
That leads us to the second half of our title, Never Trust Anyone. It sounds cynical, but in this context, it seems to be their internal operating system. If their kindness is a shield, then their lack of vulnerability is the armor underneath. They don't trust others with their true selves, because historically, being vulnerable wasn't safe for them. I have noticed these individuals are often the best secret keepers in the office because they understand the value of privacy, but they never offer a secret of their own. It creates this one-way street of information flow. They know everything about you, and you know a curated fiction about them.
Precisely. This behavior is rarely developed in adulthood. It is usually an adaptation from much earlier in life. Often, these individuals grew up in environments where their emotional needs were secondary to the needs of a volatile or emotionally immature caregiver. To remain safe or to be loved, they had to be easy, pleasant, and undisturbing. They learned that having needs, boundaries, or negative emotions resulted in rejection or conflict. So they bring that template into the workplace. They project, I am helpful, I am nice, I am no trouble, because deep down there is a core belief that says, if I am difficult, I will be cast out. Trusting a coworker feels dangerous because it risks breaking that carefully curated character.
It is interesting, because corporate structures actually incentivize this trauma response, don't they? A compliant, always smiling, high-performing employee is a manager's dream. They don't complain, they take on extra work with a smile, and they smooth over team conflicts. It validates their defense mechanism. The workplace tells them, yes, this mask works. Keep wearing it. But I imagine the cracks eventually start to show. You cannot suppress your entire personality and your genuine reactions for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for decades, without some kind of psychological fallout. What happens when the mask becomes too heavy to carry?
The fallout is usually severe burnout, often accompanied by a profound, silent resentment. Because they cannot say no directly, they might engage in passive withdrawal or sudden, unexplained resignations. Internally, there is a dialogue of injustice. I do everything for everyone, and no one cares about me. But they have never given anyone the chance to care, because they haven't shown their true needs. The nice person is often secretly exhausted by everyone around them. They retreat into isolation the moment they leave the office. Their weekends aren't just for leisure. They are for recovery. They need total solitude to decompress from the performance of being acceptable.
I think that explains why some colleagues might eventually label them as fake or two-faced if they catch a glimpse of the person behind the mask. It can be jarring to see the warm, bubbly receptionist suddenly look cold and detached in the parking lot. But hearing you explain it, Alina, fake seems like the wrong word. It feels more like curated or heavily edited. They aren't trying to deceive others for malicious gain. They are editing themselves for survival. It challenges our assumption that authenticity is the default state. For them, authenticity is a luxury they feel they cannot afford in a professional hierarchy.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Authenticity as a luxury. And on the rare occasions they do lower the shield, perhaps at a company happy hour or during a stressful deadline, and express a real, raw emotion, they often suffer from what we call a vulnerability hangover. They will replay that interaction for days, agonizing over whether they shared too much, whether they looked weak, or if that information will be used against them. This reinforces the cycle. The anxiety following a moment of truth is so punishing that they resolve to double down on the niceness and the distance. The wall gets built a little higher the next day.
Let's talk about the specific mechanics of this wall. I have noticed these coworkers are masters of deflection. You ask them, "How was your weekend?" And they give a generic answer like, "Quiet, very nice," and immediately pivot to, "How was yours? Did your daughter enjoy her soccer game?" They are expert interviewers. They keep the spotlight firmly on you. It makes the other person feel seen and heard, which explains why they are liked, but it ensures the nice coworker remains an enigma. It is a brilliant social tactic. They control the flow of information by relinquishing control of the conversation topic.
Control is exactly the right word. Anxiety is, at its heart, a disorder of control. By being the nicest person in the room, they control the emotional climate. If I am nice to you, social contract theory suggests you are obligated to be nice to me. It is a way of creating a predictable environment. If they were to be assertive or disagree or show anger, they lose control of the reaction. They don't know if you will yell or undermine them or gossip. But if they fawn, the outcome is predictable. They are purchasing safety with submission. It is a transaction, not a relationship, and that is why it feels hollow.
It is fascinating how this impacts team dynamics. You might have a team that functions smoothly on the surface because this person acts as a lubricant, absorbing friction. But true innovation often requires conflict, healthy disagreement, and the psychological safety to be wrong. If someone is terrified of being wrong or disagreeing because it threatens their nice persona, they might withhold critical feedback. They might let a project fail rather than be the negative voice pointing out a flaw. So while they are pleasant to work with, their fear of breaking character can actually be a liability to the work itself.
Yes, the refusal to engage in conflict is a refusal of intimacy. even professional intimacy. To build real trust, we must navigate rupture and repair. We argue, we resolve, we trust each other more. The fawn type avoids the rupture entirely, so they never get the repair, and thus never get the depth of trust. They remain in a state of superficial harmony. They are often lonely in a crowd. They see others forming bonds, going out for drinks, venting about the boss, and they feel unable to join in because that requires exposing an opinion or a vulnerability that could be weaponized.
For our listeners who might be realizing, wait, this sounds like me, or I think my manager is doing this, what are the telltale signs beyond just general politeness? I assume it is the rigidity of the behavior, like someone who is nice because they are happy is different from someone who is nice because they are terrified. I imagine the latter looks a bit more like a performance, the smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, or the apology that comes too quickly when no apology was needed. It is a niceness that feels anxious rather than relaxed.
Absolutely. Look for over-apologizing for things out of their control. Look for a complete lack of boundaries regarding their own time. Staying late not out of ambition, but out of an inability to say, I have to go. Also, listen for the absence of personal opinions. If you ask, what do you want for lunch? Or what do you think of this strategy? They will say, whatever you prefer, or I think your idea is great. It is a systematic erasure of the self. Physically, you might see tension in the jaw or shoulders even while they are smiling. The body keeps the score. The smile is a mask, but the muscles are bracing for impact.
So if someone identifies with this, if they realize their niceness is actually a prison of their own making, how do they start to dismantle the wall? It seems terrifying to drop the shield after wearing it for so long. They must feel that if they stop fawning, the world will attack them. What is the first step toward genuine engagement, rather than defensive pleasantness? Is it about setting small boundaries, or is it deeper work regarding self-worth?
It is a process of titration, taking small, calculated risks. It starts with realizing that no is a complete sentence and not a declaration of war. I often advise clients to start with low-stakes disagreements. If someone asks where to go for lunch, instead of saying wherever you want, actually state a preference. I would like Thai food today. See that the world doesn't end. See that the coworker doesn't scream at you. These corrective emotional experiences slowly rewire the brain to understand that disagreement is safe. They need to learn that they can be respected for their competence and their boundaries, not just for their compliance.
And for those of us working alongside these individuals, the key seems to be patience and consistency. We shouldn't try to force intimacy or pry into their lives, as that will only trigger more defensive walls. Instead, we should model safe boundaries. We should show them that we can respect their no without punishing them. If we create an environment where their boundaries are celebrated rather than tested, perhaps they will feel safe enough to lower the mask, even just an inch. It is about proving that the never trust anyone rule doesn't have to apply to us.
Beautifully said, Jane. The goal isn't to stop being nice. Kindness is a virtue. The goal is to move from compulsive compliance to conscious kindness. We want to be nice because we choose to be, not because we are afraid of what will happen if we aren't. Real trust is built on the messy, imperfect, authentic exchange of humanity. It is risky, yes, but it is the only way to be truly known. Thank you for exploring this profound topic with me today. It is a journey from safety in isolation to safety in connection.